We have a public service announcement. The Audio Hacker VIP is closing down this Friday, and it's not opening back up to the public for a while. So if you're interested in joining, now is your last chance. But more about that later, because today we are going over the best mastering chain that you can use on your beats to get them nice and loud and retain those nice transients on your drums and 808s. We're gonna be using some third-party plugins in this video, so if you don't have them, just use whatever plugins you have at your disposal. Also, not every one of these plugins need to be used on every single beat. We're gonna go over everything. So go ahead and mold this chain to fit the beat in the certain circumstance that you happen to find yourself in. Now let's jump right into it. Let's take a quick listen to this chain so you can see exactly what we're dealing with. First, I'm gonna turn everything off except for our clipper here. Okay, now let's turn everything on. So instead of doing all this, you could just push more into the clipper, right? So for instance, I could turn on this clipper and turn the input up to 4 dB instead of leaving it at 0 and push it even farther into the clipper to get it to be louder. But the problem is it's not going to get as loud as our chain, and also it's going to squish the beat. I mean, just take a listen to this. We definitely don't want to be doing that, so let's jump right in. As you can see, the first thing on my chain here is the GM audio clipper, and this is just a dedicated soft clipper. You can use a limiter or a soft clipper. Pretty much any plugin you want will be fine. I'm just using this to catch any of the peaks from those 808s and possibly some of the other drums. This step is especially important for trap beats and other beats where you want the 808s to be nice and loud and get that clipping sound from the soft clipper, right? So that's why you definitely don't want to skip this step if you have loud 808s. Our next step is going to be the EQ reduction step. And we're going to use some different EQs to go ahead and reduce things in our beat that might be too loud or might be too sharp and things of that nature. The first EQ I'm using is Gullfoss, and as you can see, I'm throwing a little bit into the tame, and what this is going to do is it's going to reduce anything that will clear up the mix and make it sound better. The nice thing about Gullfoss is it's an AI, so it does the work for you automatically. And I can go ahead and drag this over to about 164 hertz is where I had it. So that way it's not affecting our 808s at all, right? Otherwise, this thing might try to turn down our 808s a lot, and we don't want that for our beat in particular. If you don't have Gullfoss, that's totally fine. Just use your favorite EQ, and that brings us to our next step, which is using FabFilter Pro Q3 to make any precise reductions that we may want in this beat. So for this beat in particular, I didn't think I needed to reduce anything. I did a really good job mixing and leveling everything. But some stuff that I might do in the future is I might scoop out a little chunk between, 150 and 400 to 500 hertz range. When you do that, it can kind of reduce some of what's going on with your 808s and actually make them more punchy and transient in the mix. The thing that I love about this EQ is it's also dynamic as well. So I can go ahead and pull this down, and it's going to dynamically only do that when that part is above a certain threshold. And we're using one last EQ, but that's after our next step, which will be compression. And that's the UAD Pultec EQ right here. And if you have any other version of the Pultec, that's completely fine. With this one, I ended up boosting a little bit in the 5K range. But really, if you just throw this plugin on the master, it actually adds color and warmth to it overall, and I just love how it sounds. In fact, let me turn everything down to 0 really quick so we're not doing anything, and just listen to the mix before and after. Here's before. And here's after. Do you hear that? If you guys want to see an even more in-depth video of exactly how much to tweak each plugin to fit in the mix perfectly, we're putting one of those in the VIP members area. And everybody who signs up before Friday, which is May 5th, is going to receive one of these beautiful mastering tickets right here. And when you go ahead and redeem this ticket, you're going to have the opportunity to send me any beat of your choice for me to go ahead and mix and master, and I'm going to create a personal video for you where I describe every single step along the way. And if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, go ahead and get in there before it closes down. The next step is compression. And we're just going to add small amounts of compression so that we can retain the transients, but we can glue our mix together a little bit more. So that's what we're doing. We're going to be gluing our mix together with one compressor. And we're going to be using a second compressor to tame some of the transients. And if you don't have this Shadow Hills mastering compressor, you can use the Ableton stock glue compressor and the regular compressor to do something similar. You can also try out the Ableton stock multiband dynamics. The OTT preset is amazing. Just be careful on what it's doing to the 808s and the bass of your mix, because that's where it can start doing too much real quick. The next one is the Oxford Inflator, and I don't know any plugins that would replace this one. This kind of does a thing of its own, and it's absolutely amazing. So if you don't have it, no worries, but if you do, you're gonna wanna use that bad boy. So what it does is it actually just adds loudness to your beat in some crazy mathematical, scientifical way. Let's just listen to a before and after. Here's before. The next step is saturation, and we're using the Blackbox HG2MS to do that. We're doing a little bit of saturation on the mids and a little bit more on the sides to bring the side information out a little bit more and add some more harmonics in the mix. You could also use Saturn from FabFilter as your saturation if you wanted to. Otherwise, you could use Ableton's stock saturator plugin and just do a little bit. The next thing on our master is the SPL Transient Designer. And as you can see, we're just doing a tiny bit on the attack here. This is going to help the transients on your drums and your 808s especially to punch a little bit harder and get a little more out of them. I absolutely love this thing. The only warning that I have is be careful if you're using free versions of transient shapers or anything that's not super high quality, because they might not get every single note that hits. And if you're using a cheaper version, it might not hit every single thing and it might give you some weird results. So if you don't have this one or another really high-end transient designer, you might just not want to even put this on your master, but go ahead and experiment with it. You never know. And the final thing on my master is the Ozone Maximizer. This is a limiter, and I love it because there's multiple choices for limiters. I mean, we have all of these, and some of them even have drop downs of different choices. I really like the classic or the transient on the newest one right here. They sound really freaking good, but you're going to want to be careful with your last limiter. You don't want to push it very hard, because we have about -2 dBs on threshold, but as soon as we go down to -2.5 to -3, it starts squashing things here or there. So you need to know what you're doing and not push it too hard. We're doing a little bit on the limiter here and a little bit on the clipper at the very beginning. We don't want to push either of those too hard. You want to split up the workload on each of them. And make sure you're gain staging at every single step of your mastering process, because we do not want to start squashing our mix, because the whole thing gets thrown out of the water as soon as you do that. So be very careful with it. But anyways, guys, I hope that was helpful for you. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. We upload videos like this every single week. And if you don't mind, slap that big old like button for me. It really helps the videos and the channel get moving forward. And besides that one, guys, I'm going to be catching you again in the next one. Peace out.